So now let me introduce really the person that you want to talk to today, and that's Mr. Adam Hill. Adam is a licensed customs broker, a certified customs specialist, a certified export specialist, and an MBA. Adam sits on the Trade Support Network with U.S. Customs and Border Protection. He will be there in April of this year for one of their quarterly meetings. And he's been participating in the ACE program since 2009. So again, 2009, we're many years deep. We're pleased to have Adam as our Vice President of Operations for both Scarbrough International and Scarbrough de Mexico. So today we're going to get an update from him. We got some news yesterday or a couple days ago regarding the changes in the deadline for ACE, which, anyways, he'll tell you a little bit about that. I'm just not so happy about it myself. I'm ready to get through and get this going and get the other one turned off so that we can worry about other pieces of our business. So anyways, Adam, you want to go and give an update and then start taking questions?
Sure. Thanks, Kevin. Those of you who have been on this before have probably seen this slide. We've given this presentation locally in Des Moines. We're doing it in Wichita here at the beginning of March. I believe it's the 3rd or the 4th. We'll be doing it again in Kansas City locally on either the 4th or the 5th. It's Tuesday. And so, we'll talk a lot about that there. I know we have a very short amount of time here with it only being an hour long, and we certainly want to respect everyone's time. So I wanted just to give you a quick snapshot again at the ACE portal, what you can and can't do. There are links here to go out to these sites. This is how you go ahead and request an ACE portal application. To give you an idea, I was in Wichita, I guess it would have been about exactly a week ago, giving a presentation on NAFTA, and it was a room full of about 50 or so people, and I asked how many of them actually had an ACE portal account. There were 7 of them. So that is not something, that's 14%, out of that 50. And so that is something that we want to stress to you guys, first and foremost. Go out and get your portal account set up. It takes 5 minutes. The application looks a lot scarier than it is. It's 6 or 7 pages long, but actually there might be 3/4 of a page worth of information that you actually have to fill out. So there's 2 links there on the left. The first link is the ACE portal application for non-exporters, so those of you who are just importers, or those of you who are both importers and exporters. That's where you're going to head there. If you're an importer and an exporter, fill out your import application first. Once your account gets set up, there are some tutorials. You can ask us as well, and then you can go straight from your portal that's already been set up to create your exporter account. If you're only an exporter, so for maybe some of you, or for some of you who are filing AES Direct today and you want to get switched into your ACE portal, you can go straight to that bottom one, which is an exporter only account. Those tend to get set up a little bit quicker than the import ones. They don't require as much information. So real quick, let's just kind of walk through, what's required, what's not. So in that document there on the right, there you see ACE via EDI interfaces, and then the ACE portal itself. So ACE via EDI interfaces is a lot of you that use service providers. So whether you use Scarbrough or somebody else to file your customs entries, to file your EEI, AES, SED, depending on kind of when you grew up in this business. And then there's the ACE portal itself, which is a lot of self-filing type work. So you can actually send some of your own ISF data in the portal. However, if it's more than 12 shipments in a given year, you have to hire an outside source. I'm just going to kind of go through a couple that you can do here in the portal that make, at least in my mind, are something that's important, for our audience here. File export commodity data. That is AES transactions. So a lot of you have seen that. We're actually going to talk specifically about that here in a minute. But you can file either via through a service provider, whether that be a software company that you guys have in-house, whether you're hiring that out, or whether you're doing it yourself and actually logging into the ACE portal and doing that. There are reports you can run, and this is probably one of the most important things of the portal itself, is that Customs is building a profile of you as an importer, and They have access to all of this ACE data. Well, you get access to the same data, assuming it's just on you. And so why wouldn't you want the same information that Customs has readily available at their fingertips at your own? And so, we've heard a lot of people say, well, it seems kind of cumbersome. Go ahead and get the account. Make sure that it makes a lot of sense for you guys. Get it done. It doesn't take that long. There's a spot at the top where it asks for an officer. You don't even need an officer to get it set up. There is a spot for others. So if you're not an officer, don't worry about it. You can still set up as a trade account owner. The other piece of that is, do you get CF-28s or 29s? I know sometimes they come in the mail. Sometimes you might have multiple offices. You don't get them. Certainly, you want access to those, especially for those of you who kind of have a decentralized business model where maybe your compliance is centralized, but each business unit is separate, that you get it marked that you want your 28s, your 29s in the portal as well. So that way, even if it gets mailed out to another branch of yours, you at least can see access from a corporate level. Submit supporting documentation. That's also important. If Customs asks for something, I can either upload documents through the portal or through the document imaging system. For those of you who have your own periodic monthly statements with U.S. Customs, you can actually manage and see those kind of as they go through. So those are kind of the more, and I guess that last one I should probably hit on, which is make post-summary corrections. Prior to ACE, when we were still in the ACS world, you as an importer could file what was called a PEA, or a post-entry amendment. And we had a lot of importers that did their own. Well, that was a very paper-based process. And for those of you who did a lot of them, know they required a lot of follow-up. Sometimes they got lost. I don't know if lost is necessarily the right word, but lost. And you had to send them again, or you wouldn't get a response, and you have to file a protest. Well, in ACE, there is no more paper-based process. So you have to file what's called a post-summary correction. And that means that I am actually retransmitting another customs entry to basically replace what I already had. Actually, I shouldn't say customs entry, I should say a customs entry summary. So you can't do that through the portal any longer. Or I should say, you just can't do that through the portal. So basically, you can't do that yourself as an importer. You have to hire somebody who has that EDI connection with Customs. Now, if you have your own software that has this connection, you could do it on your own. You don't. The PSC filer does not have to be the same company as the actual entry filer. So note that there is a difference there as well. So this just came out from Census. I would believe it was yesterday morning. This just got posted. So those prefixes are for your IRS number, your EIN number. What do you file AES under? Kind of note those dates. If your prefix is 00, so Scarbrough starts at the 48, so ours would actually be 32816. That would be our official drop dead to get everything migrated over. So once you apply for that exporter account and get it set up, there's also a step that you have to do to actually request access to your EIN number for the reports. It doesn't take very long. It's a little button in your portal that says, yes, I want to request access. You'll get an email that has a link to it. Follow the link. There's a few instructions online, and then you'll be able to move forward. One of the big complaints we've been getting is for our clients who were actually filing their own AESs, is that in the old AES Direct system, there were templates set up. You could save them. You had your profile saved, and now you're getting into ACE, and you're on a blank slate again. Well, actually, in Des Moines, we were working through this problem with one of the attendees there, and they were a self-filer, and what they were able to do was take an old ITN number, use the search feature inside of the portal, pull up that AES filing, and then actually save that old filing as a template. So that way they were able to at least, so they didn't have to completely start from scratch. They could at least go get one if they knew that that was a good one that they wanted to save as a template. So that was definitely something new that we all learned together. And that's where, like Kevin said, ask us questions, provide feedback. ACE is new. Like Kevin said, I've been around ACE since 2009. I think sometimes we all learn something new together, us and Customs. Customs has been at Scarbrough before, just asking questions, making sure that they understand what it looked like from our side of the house. So that was kind of a unique and fun experience. So wanted to hit real quick on the AES direct users. I know we have a few of them out there. Those of you who I know are in AES direct and filing your own, I've tried to forward some information out to you prior to this call as we've kind of seen things come through, but feel free to share this information. If you need these slides, I think Kim will make sure they get emailed out after this. So as Kevin mentioned, there is a transition of dates. So previously the magic day was February 28th, 2016. So that would have been in 18 days.
Well, correction, November.
Yeah, correction, you're right. So let's go all the way back to this. It was the end, I think it was November 11th of 2015. And that was the first deadline for customs. And then there was a bunch of the trade not ready. Scarbrough wasn't one of those. We've been ready for a long time. And then they pushed it out to February 28th, and the only difference between the November and the February deadline was that Lacey Act, DOT, which is actually National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, HTSA, and FDA, as PGAs, were going to be required as of the 28th. So they took something from the end of November, kind of made a couple of small adjustments to it, and said, here's the deadline on 2/28. From that day in November, we worked with a few of our clients. We piloted programs. We did FDA. We did NHTSA. We've done Lacey Act. And we worked with our clients to make sure no matter what, we would be ready on February 28th. And we are ready. We were ready 15, 20 days ago. So, we are done with Lacey Act. We are done with NHTSA. We are done with FDA. And for those of you that, you're probably starting to get some questions now, because the data sets for PGA are different than they used to be. FDA is a good example. So in our system, FDA was basically 4 screens, and it was almost identical information on every FDA file, and that's how FDA had it set up. Now, there is FDA that has probably about 50 or 60 unique variations of data sets that have to be provided. So that took something that was once, for even our client base, pretty simple to make sure they provided me the appropriate information, to something that says, I'm asking for a lot more now. The one thing that is constant across all PGAs is contact information. Back when ACE entry summary and cargo release first came out, Customs took the approach that they wanted to know who else was a party to the transaction after the importer, the consignee, and the manufacturer. And they said, okay, hey, can you guys provide us some contact details? So, we worked with our clients, we got that information for those, if we didn't have some of it, and we were able to provide it. Well, now as we're getting inside of those PGAs, they said, well, wait a minute, Customs, this was a brilliant idea. We needed all this information too. So they're starting to ask for it as well. And I think that is where, a lot of you have started to probably get a lot of questions from us in the last 30 days, because we need more information. We need to supply more information to those PGAs. If you haven't been asked, it's definitely worth the time after this. Ask your other brokers. We know not everybody's a Scarbrough client, which, there's no way we could be everybody's broker. It's just not possible, and we understand that. But ask your other brokers. This, completely take this away from a sales thing. Look at this more from a, what is this going to do if my broker's not ready? And I'll tell you that Customs only contingency plan is a paper-based process. Nothing will get transmitted. Paper will go down to U.S. Customs. Your broker will have to key in stuff, print everything off, print the PGA forms out, send it to Customs, and then Customs will have to key that information into ACE themselves before they can set up a release. So that is something that you need to be aware of. Be pushing your broker to get ready if they're not already. So with the change in dates, February 28th, like I said, was previously FDA, NHTSA, Lacey Act for entry types 01, 03, 11, which is about 98% of the U.S. entry volume. That's just your standard entries. And I would say that's probably 99.8% of Scarbrough client entries. What they did is they pushed some of that back to 331. But what's going to happen on 228 is CBP will start divesting themselves from the old ACS platform. So what does that mean? They're instructing all of their client reps to start providing limited or no support for ACS problems that we may have as a broker. If I have a problem with something with customs, I have my own dedicated account rep that I go to with customs and say, hey, I have this problem, and they give me some kind of resolution. If I'm filing in ACS, they've been told to move me to the bottom or not respond at all because they have to force people to finally get switched. They're also going to be performing ACS maintenance just on that system because it does need to stay around for another 6 to 9 months during peak business hours. So right in the middle of the day when your entries are flowing, from your broker, they're going to be shutting that system down to do maintenance on it. So that means your stuff's not going to get cleared. The other thing they're going to do is if they get 2 customs entries at the exact same time, which obviously they get all the time, priority processing goes to anything coming across as ACE, not ACS. So you might see delays in releases simply because there are more and more ACE entries flowing through the system, which means there's less ACS getting processed. So that's what's happening at the end of this month. Like I said, if you're a Scarbrough customer, you're taken care of. We've spent a lot of time, energy, and money on making sure that we are ready to go, and very early. So now we get pushed out to that March 31st date. So what does customs said is mandatory? Entry summary without PGAs, and PGAs are, like we said, NHTSA, LACIAC, FDA, EPA, anybody that's not customs. So entry summaries for 01s, 03s, 11s, 23s, 51s, and 52s. And then entry summary for any of those previous entry types I just said that have LACIAC or NHTSA on them. So there's the first 2 PGAs kind of knocked out of the way that were supposed to start. They're ready. We worked through both of those pilots. They were great pilots to work through. Both LACIAC people and the NHTSA folks were great to work with. They helped us out. They helped our clients out. We actually have a self-programmer that we introduced to some of the folks at NHTSA, excuse me, in order to allow them to kind of work direct with them as well. Then we jump down to May, the end of May. So if you notice entry summary, so real quick, entry summary, same as 7501. You guys have heard that term a lot. Hopefully your brokers have beat it into your head. I know we have. And then you go down to 528 and they're saying, well, now not only is it entry summary, it's also the ACE cargo release side or the entry, or what you would probably know as the 3461. Those same exact entry types that came in on the entry summary versions at the end of March. So you can see we're kind of starting to close the gap here. The other piece that's coming in at the end of May is 06 entries, and those are foreign trade zone withdrawals. Now, the only way that they're going to be mandatory is if there's no PGA data at all on them, or if they have APHIS or NHTSA only. So if you only have DOT, and that's the only PGA, if there's any other PGA, even if it's something as simple as I have to disclaim FDA, then it doesn't, or I have to disclaim EPA, it doesn't fall into that. So it's either all or none. So it's either all NHTSA, all LACIAC, or a combination of those two. But if there's any other PGA, it's not required as a 528. So then Customs sticks out the summer of 2016. It's probably
very detailed.
Very detailed, the summer. And so the first thing they're doing is ACE entry summary on O2s, so quotas. That's probably the other big one that's out there. 07s, 12s, 21s, 22s. 21s, 22s are the bonded warehouse entries. We jump down. They're going to require entry summary on 31, 32, which is those warehouse withdrawals, 34s and 38s. And then there's just a big note that says all other PGAs will be announcing their mandatory dates throughout the summer. So let me tell you a couple things about that. One, I believe one of the last pilots was just announced today, which is TSCA. So those of you who have TSCA forms, that is still going to be required. The biggest difference now is that previously in ACS, only if customs asked for the TSCA document did we have to provide it to them. Now that tariff number is actually getting flagged for TSCA, the Toxic Substance Control Act, and there's a form that's provided. And so now we have to submit that data with every ACE entry that we do if it has TSCA on it. So be wary of that for those of you who have those kinds of commodities. One thing to note, the other PGA of interest here is FCC. So FCC came out about a month ago and said when what at that time was a June-July timeframe for all of the PGAs to go live, FCC said we are going to issue a waiver for our FCC 740 form, and we're not going to mandate anybody file that form from this day, when basically everything moves into ACE, to the end of this calendar year, 12/31 of 16. During that time, FCC is going to review to decide, do they even need the form any longer? So what does that mean for those of you who need FCC? One is that if you're filing it today, your broker still has to continue to file it today. FCC is one of the very few entry types. We have a couple of customers that we can't file a cargo release in ACE yet because FCC doesn't allow it. We can file an ACE entry summary, which we've been doing for 3-4 years now. We can't file the cargo because of FCC. So we file that in the old system. October of 16, the mandate is the remaining entry work is going to need to be done by the state. So we're talking drawback, protests. Any of you that are involved in reconciliation, I wrote protests again, it's actually supposed to be statements, are getting pushed over as well into the new ACE platform. Some of that you won't ever see a difference, especially if we're talking statements. That's all on Scarborough's end from a processing thing, so you wouldn't have to worry about that too much. Same with recon, protests. Drawback is the one that I find interesting, because Customs hasn't said yet, but the way that rest of ACE is going is that there's no paper. So that 7553, that 7551, the way I would read this and the way I would interpret it basically says that as of October 2016, those paper forms go away. Now, there obviously be a data transmission that takes its place, but that's something to definitely take note of. And that's all we have today for a presentation. We want to have the rest of the time, we have some questions coming in. We have some questions that were sent to us prior.